And if your brain is not engaged in redundant, repetitive activity,
Yes.
and AI is taking care of that for you,
Yes.
you are beginning to flex your brain a little
Yes.
and go beyond what you're already doing,
Okay.
right? Which is where I connected it to the movie Lucy, and I said we are anyway using only 5% of our brain.
Yes.
So why are you worried about AI and what it's going to do? And what you mentioned, Shalja, is a hallmark of any leader, right? You have one foot in the future and then you're leading people into that future. So Varanasi is designed like a yantra, which is body is a tool, right? And it's designed like your body, and it's designed for that energy, to be held together like that.
Hi everyone, I'm Shailja Saraswati. You're watching Unstoppable Woman. Today we have a very special guest on our show, the OG startup entrepreneur, the only one in India who started at the age of 16, whom I know is so successful that I've been waiting for her for a very long time to come on our show. Welcome, Soumya Iyer.
Thank you, Shalja. Thank you so much.
So good to have you here today.
So happy to be here.
We look at entrepreneurs and startups and we think, yaar, ye kaise kar lete hain? Because we are like professional people. We go to our jobs, come back, and that's our life. You started at 16, 17, Soumya. How?
And so I think it's been a very organic journey for me. So the story goes as thus. My father, I come from a Tambram family, and we come from a fairly orthodox, background setup. Women are given equal opportunity. They're given all the education, but the ask is, you should become either an engineer or a doctor or do something in the financial field.
Okay.
And I used to write poetry from a very young age.
Wow.
And I wanted to study English literature. English literature के सारे books, graduation के books मैं graduation करने से पहले ही पढ़ चुकी थी.
अच्छा.
So I decided I wanted to pursue English literature. But I also had a very keen I had a keen interest in technology. So I was, my interests were varied that way. Dad wasn't very happy with my decision. So I just decided that, I also wanted to, I think, prove it to myself that I'm taking the right decision. So it started with small steps, really. I was hosting a weekly video magazine, like, it used to be like the Surabhi. So Maharashtra had this version of Surabhi called Vividha.
Achha.
So I used to research that content. I used to host that content.
Wow.
Then I went on to work with Maharashtra Herald. I was a journalist with Maharashtra Herald.
Okay.
And all of this so that I can make money to fund my education and do things that I wanted to do.
Okay.
And that is sort of how I think my faculties very early on developed in a way that, I could look at life in a very holistic way.
Don't take the usual path. It's okay to do something different.
Correct. So, so that's sort of how it started. I was dabbling with multiple things. At 16, I actually ran a .com portal. It wasn't for, I didn't own it, but I ran it for somebody.
Okay.
But I took care of pretty much everything that is required.
CEO.
Exactly, right? I was like the CEO of that .com portal. So I think understanding, one is operations, talent, people, finance, tech, all of this came together for me.
Yeah.
And then, so like I said, and then I went on to work with my uncle, ran an engineering services company for him.
Right.
So even DVO for me has been a very, very organic process in that sense.
But you were pursuing your education
all through.
So this is, जब हम अपनी hobbies देख रहे थे, तो आप companies open कर रही थी.
Correct. Something like that.
16 guys, 16, 17. When you're figuring out like कौन सी movie देखनी है or which parlor to go
But I enjoyed every part of it, right? Like it was really an extension. Nothing I did felt like work. And that was, I think that was important for me. Everything I did was like just an extension of myself and my expressions. And it was creative, there was tech, everything that interested me. So that felt like a hobby actually.
Right. But tell me, like, your growing up days, when you were a kid. Tell us about Soumya as an 8-year-old.
So it was a very uneventful childhood. Like I said, I studied in Pune. dad worked with the income tax. I have a younger sister. A very uneventful childhood. But, interestingly, the same uncle for whom I ran the engineering services company, I seem to have written to him at the age of 13. I wrote him an email or I wrote him a letter at the age of 13, where I had told him I had no memory of this.
Acha.
And I wrote him an email where I said that one day I will start a company and so many people will work with me, and this is sort of impact I want to make in the world. And that was at the age of 13.
Wow.
So I think it was seeded in me somewhere.
Yes.
It was there in me, and this is sort of how it came out. But childhood was very uneventful. In fact, I think I was almost a recluse, in my school.
When you say recluse, you were also writing poetry, you were pursuing dance and singing, and also a lot of creative energy was getting channelized.
That is correct. So I wasn't exactly, the most social person in school.
Okay.
I had maybe a bunch of friends, but I'm not hardly in touch with my school friends now because I hardly spend any time with them to bond with them really. So the school just sort of went by. Though, my headmistress, she used to sit and read all my poetry after school.
Amazing.
So I used to spend time with her for half an hour every time.
Poetry nature पे लिखते थे कि आप observation of life, okay,
emotions, experiences.
Yeah. I feel when I look at you, Soumya, that there is somebody who's very highly aware. Okay, aware of oneself and aware of the surroundings and the impact of your actions on your environment and your surroundings and the people. Did you start your spiritual journey somewhere which has made you like this? Because it's pretty evident, right? I mean, the decisions you made at the right time, it's as if something has been guiding you or you are just too in control.
Yeah. So, yes, I think I've been blessed to be able to start my spiritual journey very early in life. I remember how my spiritual journey started. In fact, I was in Pondicherry.
Okay.
And at the Aurobindo Ashram.
Okay.
And I just went and sat and meditated at the Samadhi.
Yeah.
And that was the time, and I was just sort of following what everybody else was doing, really.
Yeah.
Not really understanding what it would mean to meditate, right? And I felt such a high level of energy that I didn't want it to end. I didn't want to stop. And that, I think, that was my brush with sort of meditation and awareness.
Yeah.
And then from there, there's really been no looking back, Shailaja.
Okay.
So I don't know how. Of course, my coming from a Tambram family, ghar pe roj, there used to be puja at home, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
This is a very, very.
I mean, that's another topic. Religion and spirituality.
Correct. Exactly. So puja to bahut hota tha ghar pe, roj mantra pade jate the ghar pe, so almost an hour of puja. My grandfather, my father.
Yes.
But I don't think that was my introduction to spirituality. So this experience actually introduced me to meditation.
Okay. But were you initiated into some technique?
No. Actually, when this happened, I wasn't initiated. Okay. But thereafter, when I was curious enough to want to learn meditation, I was initiated into a technique.
Okay. And you still follow techniques?
So now it's more free-flowing.
Okay.
It's like I find my own meditation. So I don't necessarily follow a technique.
Yes.
But I have, learned a lot of techniques which have been super helpful for me even in my daily life.
Okay.
So I've, the more recent technique that I have learned is called the meditation of quantum jumping.
Interesting.
So there's a very interesting gentleman called as Bert Goldman. And he was an early student of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Okay.
Would you have any autobiography of a yogi?
Yes, my first guru.
Amazing.
Yes.
So amazing. So he was one of the early students of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Okay.
And he then developed a model of meditation called quantum jumping, wherein you are an infinite being and you're limited by your idea of yourself.
The concepts.
the
Beliefs.
concepts that you hold about yourself.
Yeah.
And through this meditation of quantum jumping, you may not be a painter, but in no time you can learn to paint. You may not be a photographer, but in no time you can learn to photograph like a professional photographer. So you may not be a singer, but you can quantum jump into your favorite singer's body
And
or energy,
get the skills.
and get the skills of singing. And this is all instant, okay? So
Okay.
like when you meditate and you quantum jump, you gather the skills instantly.
Is it like manifestation, visualization, a mix of
You
that?
know, I think a manifestation and visualization is also a process, right? Quantum jumping is that you basically get into the energy of the person that you want to be, and you already have the innate abilities in you to be that person.
Understood. Okay.
Right? So, so this is one very, very interesting meditation that I have been learning. So when I'm, when I'm going on stage or I'm in a public speaking scenario, I still have what you call as the eustress, right? You know, you're like,
It's just initial.
the initial, and sometimes when I'm talking on topics that that are very technical, or let's say, I myself am learning some of these subjects like AI. I use the quantum jumping technique.
It helps.
Yeah, it helps immensely. It helps immensely. So, so these are some little hacks that I have. So meditation as hacks is also something that I use happily.
Nice. You mentioned something about Lucy, the movie Lucy, and I'll tell you why, because I watched it. And I was
what an amazing movie.
It was such a like, oh my god, also all sci-fi movies obviously have a very strong connect to spirituality, whether it's Matrix or Minority Report or Lucy.
Correct.
And you did mention how you've linked Lucy to AI.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating for me. Because you did mention that humans use 5% of their brain.
Yes.
And that is in fact the beta, theta, alpha, gamma.
Correct.
Right? And when she kind of has the full access to the super consciousness, and that
she unleashes powers that are unknown to her.
Yes, and how you have linked it to AI. Fantastic. I was completely blown away after that interview of yours. I'm like, I watched it again. I'm like, this woman has got it. No, you've got it. I want you to talk about your point of view on AI. It's fantastic.
No, and I think so. We've been working with machine learning and AI for a while. Okay. This is way before generative AI. We've incubated companies in machine learning and AI for a long time to find applications of AI in marketing, in business. And when, generative AI, ChatGPT became a thing, I was like, wow, finally, and look what we have here, right? And then of course the world went on this frenzy saying, are we going to lose jobs, and what happens to human beings, and how do we sort of compete against AI. So there was a lot of fear, the fear of the unknown.
And that unknown is that AI will be assistant, accelerator, or play as a role.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Or will replace people.
It will replace me,
And that is sort of, that's sort of where, and my belief in AI is, it's just that, we as human beings, okay, let's just go back, right? Did you know that we didn't know the concept of weekends until machines were invented? Until machines were invented, there was no concept of a weekend. There was no concept of a weekend.
Okay.
So we got time. Okay. At our disposal. To enjoy the finer things of life, okay, because machines were invented. So what is AI doing? It's automating.
Yes.
It's taking away redundant tasks.
Yes.
There already exists a wealth of knowledge in the world. It's making it available to you at a click of a button. Every way of thinking that exists in the world can be made available to you at a click of a button. But it's not doing any original thinking for you. It's not doing original thinking for you. But what it is doing for you is creating a lot of time. Okay. And if your brain is not engaged in redundant, repetitive activities, and AI is taking care of that for you, you are beginning to flex your brain a little. and go beyond what you're already doing,
Okay.
right? Which is where I connected it to the movie
Lucy,
Lucy, and I
yeah.
said we are anyway using only 5% of our brain.
Yes.
So why are you worried about AI and what it's going to do? Right? So it's the time and humanity to say, and it's also true that because of AI, the pace at which humanity will develop,
Yes.
maybe, it's a never seen before sort of pace
Yeah.
that we're going to.
Yeah. And you also
Right?
linked it to something called human colossal.
Human
I
colossus.
was like, damn,
Human
look at that. And I
colossus.
mean, first it started Lucy and then this. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, human colossus. So that's actually a concept by Tim Urban.
Okay.
And he says this, right? So he says that every way of thinking in the world is available to you at a click of a button. Now, what will you do with that? That's the question. That is the question.
Yes.
Which is where I feel, as human beings, we don't settle. We are survivors. We will find ways of doing things. We will find more to do.
Creative.
We'll get creative. We'll the reason because
We have
AI
survived.
exists. Yeah, because AI exists, the pace at which we'll develop will be at another level
Yeah.
entirely.
Yes.
Which is where I said that why are you worried? You're not
Yes.
going to lose jobs.
Yes.
You will have a lot more time at hand, and you'll be able to do some original thinking.
Yes.
Original thinking is such a rare thing in this world.
Yeah.
Right now, you're going to have time for original thinking.
Yeah.
So be happy.
So original thinking, innovation is the space where human race is eventually going to get to focus.
Absolutely.
You also mention very often something called prompt engineering, which is about our interaction relation with machines or AI.
Yes.
Is where we need to work on.
Yes.
It's not really कि machine आपको क्या दे रही है, पर आपसे क्या पूछ रहे हो.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So, people will not lose their jobs to AI. People who will actually be highly in demand are those who are able to use these platforms or these tools to their advantage.
Yes.
And the way to elicit information out of these tools is called prompt engineering, right? So you learn prompt engineering, you learn the ways of interacting with these tools and getting the right information.
Is it part of formal education now?
So we are training people on
You
this.
are training.
Yeah, we are training people on this. But yeah, I mean, sooner or later it'll be a part of formal education. A lot of universities are adapting it. Singularity University is another very interesting university that's everything future. That is everything future. So they teach some very interesting courses on what the future of humanity is going to look like with technology.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of time.
Yeah. So I mean, when I look at, I also feel one is a spiritual part to you, right? It's also about, you're a story of progress, right? So your one foot is in the future all the time.
Yeah.
And somebody who is figuring out कि अच्छा ये अंधेरा दिख रहा है पर मैं figure out करती हूँ. I'll be the first person to enter this dark room and I'll figure out the world and you guys follow me. I'm walking. That's what I feel about you, because the way you've launched company and what you're launching within the company and how you've expanded it outside India. It's also about you have a vision.
Yeah.
And the vision is largely also linked to what's in the future. So in the future is all about technology. It's all about marketing as an organization. It's not really just limited to product.
Yeah.
And I know that you're also harping about your company as a marketing organization.
Yeah.
Which is digital and tech first.
Yes.
Right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I think what you mentioned, Shailja, is a hallmark of any leader, right? You have one foot in the future and then you're leading people into that future. So, we are a growth marketing organization. So I call DBO as a growth marketing organization. I've always been at the, sort of intersection of creative, content, tech, and media. Like I said, the faculties that got developed in me early on because of the multiple things that I did almost became the DNA of the organization in some way. And so what I see, okay, so I think let's sort of go back to what is my why, right?
Yeah.
And I sort of go deep and I say, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? There are many layers to it, but let's just talk about professional business layer to it, right? I think I believe in people and their businesses sometimes much more than they themselves do.
Why do you think so?
I think it's just innate in me.
You
Like I
see
see
it.
potential.
That's what I'm saying. You
I
know,
see potential.
that's what I'm saying. As a leader,
Yeah.
because you are into future, maybe
Yeah.
60 to 70%,
Correct.
you're also seeing other person's future.
Future. That's happening very naturally.
They are not.
Yeah. I think that's happening very naturally.
Yeah.
So I get very excited with ideas.
Huh.
I get very excited with businesses.
Yes.
And I can see for them what sometimes they cannot see.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
That's I just don't see my business ka future. I also see others' business ka future. And then I get damn excited.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how, I constructed DVO. One, when we started as a growth marketing company at the intersection of creative tech and media. What I also did was I created an ecosystem. I started an incubator, a startup incubator. We've got 18 companies in the incubator today, working on, machine learning, AI, data, analytics, video personalization, content tech, so on and so forth. The idea was to sort of connect these businesses with the different markets and brands and businesses that we are working for.
Right.
So all of this sort of, was a huge learning curve for me as well, right?
Yeah.
So this was my way of sort of continuing to learn and figuring out what's coming up in the future,
Yes.
right? And then I realized that while we apply all of these technologies in marketing, there is equally an opportunity to apply data, AI, machine learning in business operations, right? Which is where, you build efficiency. So on the marketing side, of course, you can grow markets, you can recruit customers, you can build awareness. But if your business operations, supply chain, if those things don't take advantage of technology, then you're also limiting what the business can be. Right? Which is where we decided to apply, AI and tech, not just in marketing, but also in business operations. Right? So that sort of came together, and I said, who are we? We are a growth enablement or a growth company. Right? So I think it comes from an innate ability to see the
Future. Yeah.
innate ability to see
Clearly
the future,
visible.
which
Yeah.
I think comes from meditation.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to. I think your strength is absolutely your spiritual. You pretty solidified in that space.
Yeah.
And I think early on, like you said, since the age of 13 or 15 or 16, it started, and that's become your backbone. Right. So now everything which you're doing is you're just playing in the world. The way I see you, you're like full of that energy, which is like, abhi chalo khelte hain. Abhi clarity hai, piche to dimag mein clarity hai, energy hai. You're channelizing that energy beautifully for yourself and for the world. And now it's a playing field for you.
Yeah.
If I'm getting it right.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
So beautifully put, Shailja. So absolutely the only way for anyone to live is in playfulness. Okay.
नहीं तो क्या जिए?
मतलब क्या जिए, right? I think if we live our life in anxiety, in stress, the biggest disservice we are doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
So even in DVO, we give appraisals based on happiness quotient.
Wow. Amazing, yeah.
Right. So we do like a happiness check, 360-degree happiness check. So, the way I build the narrative within DVO is, what game are we playing? So that's actually the question that I ask.
Acha.
Yeah. So what game are we in?
Yeah.
If you're playing, what game are we in?
Yeah.
And here I borrow from Simon Sinek. And I completely align with his idea of thinking, which is we are playing an infinite game. So what is an infinite game?
Yeah.
So a finite game is cricket, right? 11 players hai. You either win or
Itne
you
overs
lose.
hai.
Itne overs hai, you win. You play by rules.
Correct.
You either win or you lose.
Correct.
An infinite game is like your video game, like Mario if you're playing
Chal
Mario,
raha hai,
right?
Candy Crush.
You just, Candy Crush. You go from one level to another, to another, to another. It never ends.
Never ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only objective of playing an infinite game is to be in the game.
And have fun.
And have fun.
In the moment.
Correct. In the moment, be in the game and have fun. Right? Competition doesn't occur to you in an infinite game. The only reason or the objective of an infinite game is excellence. Right? Have you moved forward or not? Have you progressed or not? That's the only check in an infinite game.
Yes.
Right? So, this is sort of the narrative that I built for DVO, all our employees. And somebody asked me a question that, अगर आप जीतने के लिए नहीं खेल रहे हो
तो फिर क्या खेल रहे हो?
तो क्यों खेल रहे हो?
हाँ,
Right? Like, so you don't have that adrenaline rush, you know. So why would you play if you don't want to win?
Yeah.
Right? Why do you want to be in
And
the
what
game?
was your answer?
So no, I think left it there for them to discover why is it that they
The
want
why
to
for
play.
them,
The why for them, right? But I said I can tell you why I play. I play because I want to be happy. Right. So
And
this
hence
is-
the happiness quotient.
exactly.
Very, very
hence-
different way, very differentiated from other organizations.
Hence the happiness quotient.
Yeah.
I mean, organization is to serve people.
Yes.
Building an enterprise is about serving.
Yes.
And that's sort of where this whole concept of servant leadership, etc. comes. But fundamentally, what are we doing I think as an entrepreneur, it's a matter of huge privilege to be able to run an enterprise.
Yes. Clearly, because even during COVID, you haven't really laid off anyone.
Yeah.
And you did make a special arrangement that everybody is taken care of and is happy.
Yeah.
And that was your priority
That
at
was
that time.
important because people were scared. They thought they would lose jobs. Right. So I said, I think in one of my interviews, I said, एक बुरा साल नहीं निकाला तो क्या ही business किया life में. Right. So what was important for me is to tell them that they're not going to lose their jobs and that they're not going to have pay cuts. And in a secure, happy state of mind, everybody performs.
And your attrition rate is?
My attrition is very low. So our attrition rate is probably like under 5 or 7%. A lot of other factors contribute to that.
Yeah.
We're headquartered in Pune,
Yeah.
which is sort of a great place to live in.
Yeah.
But I do think that fundamentally we run the organization very differently.
Yeah.
And also, I think, the whole master-slave mentality, that most organizations traditionally we have run, businesses have been run on a master-slave mentality, right? Whether or not you accept it, it is run on a
ये नहीं
master-slave
किया तो
mentality.
तुम्हारा जॉब खतरे में है.
Correct, right. And then, of course, मैं तुम्हें पैसा दे रहा हूँ तो तुम्हें मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ वही करना
वीकेंड में भी
चाहिए,
करना है,
right?
बीमारी में भी
This is
करना है.
British Raj, by the way.
बिल्कुल.
Okay, it comes from there.
बिल्कुल.
Right, the master slave mentality. But today's day and age, enterprises cannot and should not be run like that. Right?
Irrespective of the culture in the country.
Irrespective of the culture and country, yeah. When as human beings, we have evolved way beyond sort of living in a British Raj or a master slave mentality, right?
Yeah.
So we are living in the world of AI.
Yeah.
So how is that master slave mentality actually going to,
Absolutely.
be of any relevance today?
Yeah.
So for us, the way I put it is that I have a playground. Okay. So interestingly, you mentioned playfulness, playground. I say this enterprise is a playground and everyone is playing on this playground. You find your own expression to live your potential to the fullest on this playground.
Beautiful.
I have drawn the boundaries of the playground and I am giving you a direction to look at.
Beautiful.
If you align, you stay within the playground, play this game. If you don't, you find some other playground.
Playground.
Right? But happiness is fundamental.
Right. And this playground started 16 years ago.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And your daughter is 16 too.
That's correct. That is correct. So both of them happened together. Both of them happened together. It was interesting. So, I think Shelja, one thing I've discovered, of course, she was born and, one is that I never allowed it to bog me down. The expectations of the society, of your immediate family members on how to be a mother. I never let it bog me down. I think there is no single way to be a mother. What I realized along the way is that there is no single way of being a mother. Society has certain expectations from you as a mother. The rules have been drawn out for what kind of a mother you should be. Only if you're spending time with the child in a particular way, feeding the child, nurturing the child, doing the homework with the child is when you're being, a good mother, right? I never let expectations of what kind of mother I should be bog me down.
How do you navigate the generational trauma passed on to us?
Oh, well, yes. So I think that takes awareness. That takes certain choices that we make. That takes immense amount of self-belief that this feels right. So I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
right? And I have been led by intuition, and I have been led by what feels right for most part of my life.
Right. So just hold on to this thought, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying what feels right, being aware,
Yeah.
being conscious, being very in touch with your intuition.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? So आपकी spiritual journey बहुत जल्दी शुरू हुई थी.
yeah,
Someone who's listening to this show,
yeah,
maybe they're not anchored spiritually.
yeah, yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
point I was trying to get to कि वो क्या करें इस situation में.
वो क्या करें? Actually, ये ना इसका एक मेथड है शर्चा. Okay. How do you stay in touch with your intuition? Breath awareness.
Okay.
Okay. Just focus on your breath. And in fact, there's this lady called Sonia Shoke. Okay. And she teaches on how to tune into your intuition. अगर ये natural नहीं है आपके लिए, meditation आपके लिए natural नहीं
कर
है,
सकते हो.
you can tap into your intuition. And she gives you beautiful hacks, you know. She says, when you don't know, when you're in a place where you have to make a decision and you're conflicted and you don't know what to do, she gives you simple hacks like just focus on a particular thing in the room. Okay, and look at the texture. If I'm looking at the table, look at the texture of the table. I look at the print on the table, and then I will just keep looking at it until such a time that your mind's cleared from the conflict, and suddenly you'll have your answer.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
So if meditation, breath awareness, you know, this is not natural to you, there are certain hacks that you can follow which will help you tap into your intuition.
You know, when we're talking about intuition, I must tell you this experience which my son had. So I was told about these courses called the Intuition Process. It's part of the Art of Living Foundation. They teach these courses. Okay, so I was waiting कि 7 साल का हो जाएगा, I'll take him. And I took him for this course. Essentially, what the course taught him was few techniques. And he figured out कि यार blindfold करके ना second, third day, they can touch the paper and tell कि color क्या है, texture क्या है. He was sitting ऐसा back to back with me and he said, Mama, you are drawing a circle. I'll hide a ball in a room. He will know where the ball is.
Yes.
It was a proof that kids are born with that intuition.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to say, we as adults
have unlearned it basically.
we have unlearned it. And ये सब जो हम techniques कर रहे हैं, we are trying to go back to our original self and being and state.
Absolutely. I know this technique that you're talking about. I forget the name. It's got a name.
Intuition process.
This place, it's got a scientific process, scientific name also.
Correct.
It'll come to me.
Yes.
But my daughter does this very well as well. My niece does this very well as well. And it is so natural for her.
Amazing.
So natural for her.
Pragya yoga. It's called Pragya yoga, I think. I could hear
There's a scientific name.
Okay.
It'll come to me. Huh. So
they are practicing it or they've learned it?
No. So I taught them the technique.
You taught them that.
Yeah, I taught them. So basically all they have to do is, so you know, let's say that I take this band and I place it in my hand and then she touches it. You know, she'd go like, I can see black, I can see round, you know, oh, you have that hairband in your hand, you know? And so it's as natural for them.
और हमें सीखना पड़ रहा है.
हमें सीखना पड़ रहा है, correct.
that is the strain and the pity part. You know, you were talking about religion versus spirituality.
Yeah.
यही फर्क है.
Yeah.
Religion में हम थोड़ा distance रख रहे हैं.
Correct.
Spirituality is all about you're very close, just kind of unveil. And there are certain techniques which will make you feel like you're
correct. Correct. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
But still, how did you do it when you were your daughter's 16 now?
Yeah. No, so I think, like I said, I just went by what felt right. I knew that I needed to spend time with her, and spending time with her was also very natural for me. So I would spend time with her talking about work and my business and what I'm doing, because it wasn't considering I live a very integrated life. Okay, for me,
compartmentalized
नहीं है. Work-life balance का कोई फंडा ही नहीं मेरी लाइफ में. You know, you want integrated life, okay, where, you know, you're choosing what you want to do. You know, you're extremely integrated with the entire process. Your enterprise is your life. You have various ways in which you're expressing yourself, you know, as a part of your whole life. And it's one integrated life. There's no question of work-life balance. So I would sit with her. I would talk to her about what I'm doing, and I would speak to her about work, take her to office. She would travel with me. So she had chutti, after the weekend. Yeah, she'll just come along, and then she'll stay in the hotel room. She'll do, she'll order for room service.
Yeah.
But we've really spent time together where she's seen me at work, right? And, and it's amazing. I still tell the story. There was when she was about 3 or, when she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
She was throwing a fit because my husband was on the call.
Yeah.
And then I explained to her that dad's on a call because, so-and-so uncle has not paid him for the work that, he's done.
Yeah.
And this uncle is a very good friend, by the way.
Okay.
So he's negotiating, the payment terms with him, or he has to pay him for the work. So I explained the logic of, dad has worked and he has to pay and all of that, right? So this uncle comes home when she was 7 years old.
Achha.
Okay. And she asks him, have you paid dad the money?
3 साल में उसने जो सुना है,
So yeah,
उस 7 में 4 years बाद she's questioning.
Exactly, right? So these kids are they understand. You just have to talk to them like an adult.
Yeah, they're soaking in everything.
And you talk to them like an adult. Mostly we don't talk to
We do
children
the baby
because
talk.
समझ में नहीं आता है.
इंडिया में खासकर तो हम बेबी टॉक करते हैं.
Baby talk
I was in
करते हैं.
UK and that was a revelation because वहाँ पे adult की तरह आप बात करते हैं.
Yeah.
There's no baby talk. And kids also talking back like,
See, and why not, right? You're helping them grow up much faster.
Yes.
So I think it's been that really. My mother, my in-laws, they've been around. They've been a huge support system. My husband's been a huge support system as well for me. So they've allowed me to be. I have Sanjay, whom I mentioned to you, my coach. He has been, he's guarded me from going on guilt trips. He'd always sort of said, don't go in that direction.
And
guard me.
Get just wasted then.
Exactly, it'll get wasted.
Yeah.
And today, if you ask Arini, my daughter, she and I have like the most amazing friendship. Okay, so we do all things fun. We travel together, and she has not known any other kind of mother. So what is she missing? Nothing. So why do we box?
What is she going to become?
She's doing too many things right now.
Yeah.
So I think she's very keen in, she understands political affairs, international affairs. She's won a bunch of model UNs across India.
Wow.
She's a TEDx speaker.
At 16? I'm not surprised.
She's done well for herself. So I guess. So I said, I think I've done a fair job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So now you get time for your solo travels.
I have always made time for
Always.
travel. Yeah, I think from the time, always would probably be a bit of an exaggeration, but I think since 2015-16, every year I would go out on a solo vacation. I think I enjoy my time alone so much.
See, one is, I want to get to what you do and how you plan, but it's also about like family, society. अच्छा अकेले जा रहे हो? क्यों जा रहे हो? Husband क्यों नहीं है साथ में? बच्चे क्यों नहीं है साथ में? क्या what is this solo travel? Why?
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. I think I've just been blessed with a husband and a family. I just say blessed because, he got me. He really got me.
Yeah.
And he would never question about why I'm going alone, etc. Right? And it's also because he knows me from the age of 17. I met him very early in life, right? So he's seen me grow up, and I think he gets me like nobody else does.
Yeah.
So for that, I think I'm very, very thankful. But yes, the world, of course, asked me. My mother, my immediate family, it's very difficult for them to understand why I would do. My mom would be like, "बच्चे को छोड़ के क्या solo travel लगा हुआ है? तुमको क्यों जाना है?" Right? They all took time to understand.
But they adjusted.
Now they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, there was a lot of resistance that I had to go through.
But जब वो resistance हो रहा है, right? A society कुछ बोल रही है, family कुछ बोल रही है, some emotions are going inside you.
Yeah.
This time, how do you stay strong and resilient?
Yeah. No, it's not easy. But like I said, if you're able to tune into yourself
Again,
and you listen to yourself,
to yourself, being aware of what you want,
aware of
the
what
why.
you want and why you're doing what you want. Is this indulgence? It's not. What is it? It's
feeding the
myself.
soul.
It's for myself. It's for my progress. It's for my growth as a person. It's for my growth in spirituality. If I'm doing it for the right reasons, then I think I'm just fine. So
are these travels or are these retreats?
These are more like solo retreats.
Okay.
There are certain places that I go to.
Okay.
I usually love the mountains because I feel like, mountains allow me to go deeper inside. Beaches, whereas beaches are about relaxing and clearing your head.
Yeah.
So beaches have this cleansing energy.
Yes.
And mountains have this, this
Going
energy going within.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's much easier in
Yeah.
mountains.
You've been to Himalayas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been to the Himalayas, of course. So yes, Rishikesh, Himalayas. I just couple of weeks ago I was at Chamba. Then Himachal. Srinagar, I spent a lot. Yeah, I love. Yeah, Srinagar. I mean, actually, the rural Kashmir, if I can call it that, right? So those are places where I go and get my solo time. More recently, I actually went to Varanasi.
How was that?
Oh, so beautiful. I mean, again, it's no amount of giving it a language is going to do justice to the experience called Varanasi.
I caught that post of yours where you mentioned that like कुछ scriptures में लिखा है कि वाराणसी में आप पहुंच गए हो तो that's a direct connection.
Yes. So that is why they have the Manikarnika Ghat over there as well, right?
Talk about it.
So Tantra, Yantra, Mantra, right? So Varanasi has been designed like the human body.
Okay.
So the place has the energy of all the nadis in your body, and that's why you have 72,000 temples or something like that in Varanasi.
That many nadis.
That many nadis. Correct. Right? So the energy of the place when it was designed on the it's like supposed to be the oldest city, right, in the world.
Yeah.
So the way it was designed is it was designed like a energy center.
Okay.
And this is also the place that has the shortest distance from what you would call the astral realm. Right? So we live in an earthly realm, in a material world, right? And then you have the astral realm.
Yeah.
So the reason Manikarnika Ghat or sort of all the old people go to Varanasi to die is because it's
Moksha.
It's a moksha, and it's sort of their immediate is the quickest way to salvation. Right? And if you are tuned in, and you do meditate, if you go and you meditate on the Ganga Ghats,
you'll feel it.
You will feel it. You will feel it 100%. 100%.
So you felt the same in Aurobindo Ashram.
Yes, it was a similar feeling, but it was dialed up many times over for me. That was sort of my first brush with meditation, but it was dialed up many times over, and no earthly. I mean, I could feel it, right? Like no earthly emotions touch you.
Yes,
right. You don't, all the experiences, the earthly experiences and emotions and relationships and whatever you have, you suddenly transported into a realm where none of this touches you, none of this, even makes sense. So like it's a different time and
different
space.
dimension.
It's a different dimension that you enter.
Yeah.
Right. And, I wanted
the sattvic energy would be really high, right?
Very high.
Meditations have
Correct.
Yeah.
And, I have an innate fear of, like from bachpan se, some of the things that you sort of grow up with, right? I have a fear of death because one of my friends, very, very dear friends, one of my best friends, she died when she was 21 and I was, I think, 17 years old. And since then, there's this grief which I wasn't able to release. And the whole idea of death is something that I couldn't come to terms with. Because I couldn't fully fathom the idea of death either. So I think I've held on to it for all my life, right? I would not go to funerals. I would not, even go and meet anybody, if somebody's, let us say, one of my, again, very close friends' dad passed away. And I couldn't get myself to go to their place, I met her much later.
What to do in those situations?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I would just be awkward in those situations. It's not like I didn't feel for her, but, I would just be awkward. Yeah, I wouldn't. I just couldn't get myself to go. And so this fear of death, I think I was able to release in Varanasi.
This time.
And it happened because, I could see that, actually, so some of the people who live there say, if you see shav in the morning, aapka din acha jane wala hai. So they used to wait for a body to pass so that they have a good day. I mean, imagine human context in this scenario, right?
Yes.
So they says shav is equivalent to Shiva, and if you see a shav pass, then you have a good day.
Yeah.
So it's that one place where, your spiritual enlightenment, moksha, death, all of this comes together in one place, and,
Yes.
and how do you sort of even interpret that?
Yes. There are places where obviously that sattvic energy which I'm talking about, वो कुछ measurement के equipments होती है, and you can measure it, like from a grade to 0 to 5. Like if you go to monasteries, or if you go to ashrams and ghats,
हाँ.
वहाँ पे वो एक level आएगा जो सात्विक ज़्यादा दिखाएगा. Cities में आओगे तो,
और how do you measure this?
there is something which is
Interesting.
so the Art of Living ashram, where I used to go very often for my yoga resorts,
हाँ.
yoga retreats.
हाँ.
तो वहाँ पे they told us about this. Then they're like, कि,
हाँ,
the way you're
best.
feeling, what you're feeling is because यहाँ पे सात्विक energy इतनी high हो चुकी है.
हाँ.
Around in the environment, no, it's all sattva. So you settle down in meditation very, very fast. Unlike city में rajo energy is very
Correct.
on a high.
Correct. So yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So Varanasi, is designed like a yantra, which is body is a tool, right? And it's designed like your body, and it's designed for that energy, to be held together like that.
Nice.
So that was Varanasi. That was my gift to myself.
And then you went to Bhutan as well, or was it
Yeah.
Himachal?
No, I went to Bhutan as well.
That is also called the happiness.
It's the happiest place on earth, I think. Yes. So, I mean, I think again, it's got a great vibe. Again, like you said, it's the monasteries, it's the sattvic way of living.
Yes.
I think all of this comes together. I think we are all some total of energy around us. Yeah.
Even I think Buddhist monasteries have cemeteries next to them, right? Because एक तरफ meditate करते हैं, दूसरी तरफ हाँ.
अच्छा.
So that is basically के
coming together of life and death is the same.
like moment में रहो, ये कभी भी हो सकता है. Don't think this is the reality and go get attached to it. Like Buddha always said, stay in the present moment.
That makes sense.
So lovely. Yeah, this is amazing. I love this conversation.
I'm loving it.
So what's next now, Soumya? You've launched companies. You've launched your company outside India as well.
Yeah.
And you are based in India and also one leg in Dubai and Saudi. So what next after that?
Yeah. So, like I said, so where DVO today is in 6 countries. I am extremely enthusiastic about, growing DVO to be, a multi-country, global, independent, growth enterprise. I think we're very well poised to do that as well. It also is a huge expression of myself. Running the enterprise is an extension of myself. I usually tell people that ये नहीं करूँगी तो और क्या करूँगी life में. I don't know what else to do with life, right? So, and like I said, running a business is a privilege, and I think there's so many aspects that you're able to address or get to know about, right? People relationships, talent, and I don't like to call them talent, like they're all people, that's why I was telling you in that during COVID as well, I said people are not Excel sheets, right? They're people, right? So people, managing people, interacting with people, conversations with people, finance, markets, and we work in different markets. So those cultures, tapping into those cultures, understanding those cultures and growing those cultures. I think this is all an extension of who I myself am. Right. So I'm extremely enthusiastic about growing DVO as a multi-country global growth enterprise. So I think that journey will continue. We will move. We are looking at the US to expand. We will expand further into Australia. Okay. So from a market standpoint, we have over the next 3 years enter at least 3 more markets. Here I also see a huge potential for Indian businesses to go global.
Amazing journey, and I'm sure you're just going to build more and more castles, not in the air, but actual real castles across the world.
Thank you, Sheldon.
But before we let you go, we also want to know your point of view on being unstoppable. See, your entire journey, entire episode is all about being unstoppable. But anything you want to leave behind to our listeners, anything which is coming to your mind right now, how to keep the unstoppable spirit unstoppable?
So, I think I go back to what I mentioned, which is that if you look at your life with a lens of playfulness, if you see that you're playing and you have this beautiful playground, and if you can fully see that you're playing the infinite game, See, nature is infinite, Shalja,
Correct.
right? I draw a lot of my inspiration from nature, by the way. One of the reasons I go on my retreats is also sort of to be
with
draw
nature.
inspiration in nature. I have a vision which is sort of almost coming to fruition, which is that my entire office is going to be in nature, in the mountains. Okay, so and in Pune you're sort of blessed with very beautiful the Sahyadris are
Yes.
around, and not, within 40 to 50 minutes of drive you can reach a fairly beautiful place.
Yeah.
So the genesis of everything creative is nature.
Yes. So go back
Right.
to the basics.
Go back to the basics.
बहुत दूर आ गए हम.
बहुत दूर आ गए हैं हम लोग, exactly. So to go back to your question, nature is infinite,
Yes.
and if you have to take inspiration from nature, like Sanjay usually says, he says that आग कभी burnout नहीं होता है, उसका कुछ dim नहीं होता है energy, right? Water is never less wet, so the intensity of nature is the same.
Correct.
Because it's infinite.
Correct.
Right? So if you're able to look at yourself as a part of nature, and if you see that you're playing an infinite game, you're unstoppable. That's it. Like there'll be breakdowns, but there'll be breakdowns.
And it's okay to pause, right?
Absolutely okay to pause.
So when you go for these solo trips, that's pause.
That is pause. That's pause. That's reflection.
And it's
getting
required.
perspective, and it's required. And all said and done, in this ego that and ego is almost it's a part of you, right?
Yes.
I mean it's not
You
bad.
carry this.
Yeah, you carry this, right? And the more you engage with the world, the more your identity develops, right? So you need to get that space to let it go.
Let it go. Dissolve.
Let it go. Dissolve
नहीं तो
it,
पूरा
release it.
वर्ल्ड में चिपके रहोगे तो वो टाइम नहीं मिलेगा.
Exactly. You have to pull back and release. Your sense of identity to truly see who you are. So again, I think I'll mention this because this is very interesting. Again, you asked me, so how do people who are not, like, let's say, spiritual or are into meditation, what kind of tools can they use? So the same lady, Sonia Shoket, she describes this in a very beautiful way. So what is your higher self, and how do you identify your higher self? And what's your ego, right? See, what gets hurt is always the ego.
Yes.
Okay, what you're trying to heal from is your own ego. Okay, so we all speak about healing. And healing from your own ego.
Surrender to kuch nahi bache.
Exactly, right? So how do you identify your higher self? Anything that makes you. So she asks you to give it a name. Like whenever you're the happiest version of you, anything that you feel extremely enthusiastic about, that time when you feel like you are in an expanded space of ecstasy, give that version of you a name.
Nice.
Okay, now that name could be anything. It's your name, like it's your higher spirit or your higher self, right? Give it a name, whatever name comes. So the yardstick is, when I say that name, do I have a smile on my face? Okay, do you feel happy when I say that name, right?
Yeah.
That's your identity or access to your higher self. And then you have a barking dog. Okay, so it's your pet. It's important. It's there. It follows.
It's guarding.
It's guarding. It's guarding. Exactly, right? That's what your ego does, right?
Yeah.
And it's following your higher self, right? But it's a barking dog.
Yes.
Okay, and give it a name.
Yes.
Right? And whenever, how do you identify the barking dog? When you mention the barking dog, you feel like a sense of fear, anxiety, not okayness. Your energy sort of comes down a little.
Yeah.
Right? So you have these two distinct personalities to you. The only thing that you need to do is consistently put the effort to access your higher self. So I think I segued from what your main question.
That's okay.
But this is sort of how you release your
This
ego
also
and swing back.
links me back. We don't want to let go you. This is fabulous what we are talking. The coaching part, right? Early on in career, when you're looking at a leadership role and you're an entrepreneur, it's also about seeking spiritual techniques, but it's also about looking at a guide or a master or a coach early on in life.
Yeah.
Now, these days, coaching is great. Life coaches are there.
But that's become like one, from the stands versus from the courts. Most coaches are in the stands. They're not in the court with you. So,
yes. So, what is your...
I think the need for a coach to have a mentor in your life is very, very important.
Okay.
They channelize your energy. They declutter your mind. Having a physical manifestation of a coach in your life, or a mentor or a guide in your life is, I think, the biggest blessing one can get. And I was blessed to have one
Very early.
very early on. So sometimes you don't have, you're not lucky enough to find somebody like that. I think the anchor of your higher self in this case is of huge advantage. Right? What is your higher self? Nothing but God. Right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
So if you spend time anchoring your daily thoughts in your higher self, largely you'll make the right decisions.
You'll get the guidance.
Yeah, you'll get the guidance.
I have a feeling that we'll meet again. And we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation because, see, you're a person who's on a very progressive journey. And by the time we meet you again, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, I don't know, you will have a lot more to share. I have a feeling. So,
I do, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much for today. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor for me as well.